Oftentimes what I see in younger entrepreneurs, even if they're not in their 20s, you can be a young entrepreneur in your 50s if you're just starting. What I see is people trying to get it right the first time, trying to nail it. Like, I want to get the perfect idea, perfect company. I have to make this work, has to work. It doesn't. You can be successful at many different stages of your life, even if you're not hitting a certain metric, that a goal that you've set for yourself. You can be successful without always hitting your goals. They're not mutually exclusive. People take life too seriously. There's a difference between being serious and being sincere. I'm very sincere with how I approach life, but I don't think it's that serious. It's a game.
What were some of the insights or differences in advice maybe that a 20-year-old needs versus a 30-year-old in the business journey?
This is a really good question. I can only give you advice based on what I would say to myself. I can't say that there's a generalization that everyone should know or do, but I would say in the 20s, try as much as you can. And in your 30s, don't be afraid to shed some of the identity that you build in order to start a new chapter or climb the second mountain. And when you shed that identity, it's not that you're throwing away the work that you've done. You're actually consolidating the work that you've done, but then using that in the next phase. I think that when it comes to true entrepreneurial progress, the real mark of progress is it's obviously not success in everything you do, because that's not reality. That's maybe what you see on Shark Tank or whatever, but that's not real. The true marker of entrepreneurial progress is working on something for a while, failing at it, and then taking the systems or the lessons or the things that you took from that experience, even if it took a few years to fail, giving it your all, failing at it, and then taking that information, going immediately to the next thing and installing whatever that is, the knowledge, the systems, the information, the technology, the people, because these are all things you learn through entrepreneurship, how to find great people, or you take relationships with you, or you build some systems, or you learn some insights about a certain industry, taking those and applying it to the next thing so that you cut down your own learning curve. So you're never really starting over. You're always sharpening from the point that you're already at. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from whatever you learned, wherever you just stopped. And I think that if we understood that younger, it would make it easier, because oftentimes what I see in younger entrepreneurs, even if they're not in their 20s, you can be a young entrepreneur in your 50s if you're just starting. What I see is people trying to get it right the first time, trying to nail it. Like, I want to get the perfect idea, perfect company. I have to make this work, has to work. It doesn't have to work. It's okay if it doesn't. And that is relevant for me because, when I was writing, and blogging, and things were starting to pick up for me right around the time that the social media was picking up, and I was writing my blog and it turned into a book. I think it would have gone even smoother if I would have been okay with letting go of that a little bit sooner in order to let myself kind of breathe and expand. But I felt like I had to keep doing what I was known for in order to be successful. And that's one way of approaching life, but it only works if you really are enjoying that. If you're not, you have to move on. Or if you're working on a business and it's just not going the way that you want it to go, it's okay to exit stage left, to dump it, and to move on. And so in your 20s, you're not always going to know when the right time is. Kenny Rogers will say, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You're not always going to know because you don't have the experience. And as you get into your 30s, hopefully you failed enough times if you started early enough where you're like, okay, I can recognize this pattern and it's time for me to make this next jump. And that is a useful way of progressing.
Beautiful. How do you define success personally?
Well, I think success has to be an internal feeling because externally the milestone is always moving. So you can be successful at many different stages of your life, even if you're not hitting a certain metric, that a goal that you've set for yourself. You can be successful without always hitting your goals. They're not mutually exclusive. You can still be successful while being ambitious and hungry and wanting to go to the next level. And I think sometimes we count ourselves out. I mean, for me, just from a career perspective, I made a career as an author and a writer, and that's really cool. I didn't think that was even going to be a thing. When I was graduating high school, I was thinking about joining the FBI. I don't know.
Wow, yeah.
But I just didn't think that was a thing. And I think that I give myself credit for that. I have been self-employed for 15 years now. That's successful to me. And then along the way, there are like projects I've done that have been successful and ones I have done that have not been successful. But I think overall, are you satisfied with your life? Yes. Do you have exciting goals that are pushing you to expand yourself? If the answer to that is also yes, then you are successful. The individual successes and failures within projects or within smaller time frames, I don't think is as important as if you feel like we were talking about earlier, you're internally being truthful with yourself about the direction that you're headed. And you're not saying, well, I saw that Tom Bilyeu had $1 billion exit with Quest and I want $1 billion. It's like if you're measuring it off of that, then you're never going to feel like you're getting there because Tom Bilyeu is not happy with his results still. He's like, I got to start the next Disney now. I'm like, do you? And so, and I think it's interesting because as an entrepreneur, there's this neuroticism of never enough. And I think part of the reason why I've been successful, but like part of the reason why I am not a multi-millionaire is because internally, I just don't care. Like I care and I have goals and I'm pushing to achieve them, but I think I've just done so much psychedelics that I just see it doesn't really matter. It's like, we're not really here. We don't really exist. We're all going to evaporate anyway. I've already seen God, the God force. I'm not even going to say that I get it because once you say you get it, that's when you know you do not get it. So I'm not going to say I understand, but I've seen enough to know that all the games that we're playing down here doesn't really matter. So people take life too seriously. There's a difference between being serious and being sincere. I'm very sincere with how I approach life, but I don't think it's that serious. It's a fucking game. You look outside in New York City, how many are these people even real? Are these just NPCs walking around? I'll never know because I don't know you. I don't see where you go after you close the subway doors. How do I know? And also, you're just a reflection of me. You only exist because I'm looking at you right now. Just like within physics, the fact that I am viewing you changes your state, which sounds very narcissistic. But so when you start to look at things at that level, it's just not that serious anymore. And it's hard to be like, I'm going to do business, And so you got to find that balance of, okay, we're playing the earth game. I know I need to get $25 million because that's going to spit out $700,000 a year after tax, adjusting for inflation. That's a good nest egg to have. And so you're playing these earth games, but it's a game. And it's a lot less stressful if you look at it like that.
Yeah, I love that answer. I think one of the most important things, and this is something that I always got from Tim Ferriss, right, is like defining these nebulous words. Like, because a lot of times otherwise you're just constantly chasing this word that you're using that you actually have never defined for yourself. And I find like so many people, like young entrepreneurs, like everyone in their life can often be like, oh, I'm not successful yet, or that person is successful, but no one is looking at that internal barometer of like, what does that actually mean? So I really appreciate your insight on that.
Yeah. And talk to the most successful people and realize that even they won't even want to say that they're successful or that they're not quite happy yet. And you're just like, well, what are we doing it for? What are we doing this for, guys?
Yeah.